are we seeing between yourself and Deion Sanders? I feel like you guys have almost a similar path between, player, retired, analyst, coach. Are we seeing possibly more? Do you think you guys are more or less trend setting from the perspective of, are we going to see more high profile NFL players in college football?
So I think, Prime and I are very different. He was a much better player than me, obviously. He's way more charismatic than me. But I worked with Prime and NFL Network, and I always admired this about Prime, and still do to this day. As gifted as he was a thinker. He was a high football IQ guy. He saw the game three-dimensionally. He didn't see it as me versus you, even though he sat out there on that island a lot of times. And I think I'm guessing this, you can ask him this question, I think it's when he hurt his toe. Deion went from the greatest athlete that's ever played the game, him and Bo Jackson, to a cripple that had to play at a very high level. So he had to learn other ways. And I think that's his gift as a coach, is he doesn't only speak to the elite athlete. He speaks to the guy that has challenges and knows how to coach him. I'm a huge fan of Prime. But I think it's unfair to both of us to compare us because of the obvious, what you just stated, because I think we do it a little differently, right? Not better or worse, good, bad, just differently. What I do think you'll see as a trend is the NFL player that was a coach by nature, right? Yes, he was a player. I'll give a great one. Jets quarterback. Randy Moss's quarterback at Marshall. Chad Pennington.
Yeah.
So Chad's one of the great teachers of football. Chad's made plenty of money, lives in Kentucky, doesn't need to coach. We're seeing him coach. I could see him taking the next step. Jason Witten, same thing. Jason, although a very good player, was always a craftsman at what he does. He's doing it in high school. You're going to see him do it. Ty Detmer, you'll see that happen. There's a lot of those types of guys that I think we're breaking the glass ceiling for. So yes, I do think you'll see that as a trend. I think the other trend I'm hoping to help is I think you're going to see the high school coach that runs a very sophisticated program. So Ohio, Texas, Southern California, there's pockets around the country where these high school programs were like ours in Tennessee, that they're basically FCS programs. I would say their budgets and very similar. Like, I had a lot of FCS coaches come in and say, well, you do this better than us. So they're kind of I would view some of these high school programs as like FCS level coaching, and you're going to see those guys get elevated to Group of 5 jobs, Power 5 jobs, because they have experience managing a lot of people, a lot of situations, coaching at a high level. So I think both those trends here in the next 5 to 10 years, I do think you'll see more of that.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to ask you, too, about another one of those guys who kind of Baltimore Ravens royalty as well, Ed Reed. Do you think he's one of those guys that could do it as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Ed was, again, so I played against Ed when I was at the Niners, and he was kind of towards the end of his career, and he had lost a couple steps, but it didn't make him worse. Like, I'd be the first to tell you, I played against him when he was the best, and I played against him when he was not nearly the athlete he came in as, but he was just as good. So again, you have to take more of a thinking man, craftsman approach to the game, because that's what coaching is, right? Because those of us that played at the highest level had elite traits, like elite, not like 5-star, like elite traits. It's very hard to expect your players to have that. Like, I would tell Jacob this if he was here. Jacob's not as talented as I was at this age. He can be better than me, though. But there's avenues to be better that aren't talent avenues. And I think we as coaches have to help kids reach their potential through different avenues if they don't have elite traits, right? So Jackson's behind me. Jackson does have elite size, height, weight, inside backer. But he hasn't played an elite level yet. So we need to help him through our experience understand what those avenues are to get the most out of his athleticism, the most out of his traits. I think you have to do it from a thinking man's approach, not as a, hey, I could do that, why can't you do it? Run faster. What if I told Jackson, hey, just hit him harder, run faster? He's like, what the hell are you talking about? I just ran as fast as I could and hit him as hard as I could. I don't have any more, right? Well, that's how some coaches speak, but if I can give them tools to like say, hey, just check out the depth of the tailback and the offside guard's hand placement. You tie those two things together, you're a half step ahead of this gap scheme that's coming. Well, now he's already really talented, and he's got a head start on what's coming. Now he can play at elite level. That's what Ed Reed had to do after he lost a couple steps. That's what Deion had to do after he lost a couple steps. So I think that's the gift of the elite athlete turned to coach, but had to go coach going from an elite athlete to an average athlete at some point, but still maintaining a high level of play. Like when I played in Baltimore, I was a shell of what I was my years in Tampa because of injuries. So I had to find a new way of completing the ball, of moving in the pocket to winning games. So I lean on those experiences to coach more than, oh man, just rip that corner out in there, double cheek that sucker and beat the safety. If I said that to Jake, he'd be like, Coach, I can't throw it any harder. How am I going to throw it harder than my hardest? Well, I can teach him how to anticipate it. I can teach him how to look that safety off. I can teach him how to use his eyes differently, his feet differently, because I had to do that when I was in Baltimore.